What is going on, guys? It's your host, Neil Villapiano, and welcome to another edition of Mofobo Network Presents here on YouTube, the best place to get the most up-to-date news going on in the wide world of sports. Thank you guys, as always, for taking some time out of your day to check this video out. And if you like this video and you also want to share your thoughts on it, make sure to leave a like and a comment down below when you're done. We always have exciting topics to talk about, and today is certainly no exception. Now, usually I have only one topic that I want to discuss for a whole video, but today I have two topics that I want to discuss that I think are very, very important going on right now. And we will begin with our first topic, talking about arguably the biggest rumor going on in the NBA. I'm recording this actually on Wednesday, November 19, 2020, the day of the NBA draft, but that is not the biggest news in the NBA. But we will get into that right away. We also have history being made in Major League Baseball. So we have a ton to get to. So without further ado, let's kick some Mofobo. And we'll start things off by talking about what you see in the background here. And we are going to be talking about the Brooklyn Nets, because I'm sure a lot of you already know by now, it has been reported numerous times over the past couple of days that James Harden of the Houston Rockets is trying to get himself traded to the Brooklyn Nets to form a big three of Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden. So let's kind of go through how we got to this point. First of all, the first report came out on Sunday that James Harden wanted out of Houston. And this came after it was reported that Russell Westbrook was trying to get traded away from the Rockets. Then Adrian Wojnarowski, or Woj as most of you probably know on Twitter, he tweeted out that James Harden had two preferred destinations, which was the Brooklyn Nets and the Philadelphia 76ers, particularly because the former general manager and president of the Houston Rockets, David Morey, is right now in Philadelphia. Now, again, the next thing that happened was 2 days ago where Woj reported that the Brooklyn Nets was the top destination that James Harden wanted to be traded to, that it was no longer the Philadelphia 76ers, that he wanted to go to Brooklyn, and that was pretty much it. And then here comes the crazy part. Monday night, Adrian Wojnarowski once again tweeting out, and this was the bombshell. It was reported by Woj that James Harden had turned down a 2-year extension from the Rockets that would have made him the first $50 million per year player in NBA history. He turned down $50 million per year. He already had 2 years left on the deal that he's on right now. It would have just been in an extension, so it wouldn't have come up until the 2022-23 season, to be exact. But he turned that down and pretty much said, without really saying it, get me to Brooklyn. He wants to go to the Brooklyn Nets. Now, Zach Lowe of ESPN thinks that getting Harden would be a really, really good idea for the Nets. One of the things that he said was that he felt that it could be something similar to what LeBron has done for several years, especially when he was in Cleveland. You know, get a couple of big name players and then get a bunch of veteran role players that will take the veterans minimum. Now, this is my opinion on the whole thing, because I am a Brooklyn Nets fan. I was actually a Nets fan way back when they were still in New Jersey. My family was actually season ticket holders for a year. I believe it was 2008, if my memory is correct. But I've been a Nets fan my whole life, and obviously already having two major superstars in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, you know, adding another superstar would just be incredible. And I never thought I'd see this day that the Nets would have major superstars on their team. But let me tell you why I think getting James Harden would be a massively bad idea. And here's the first thing. There's already a lot of, you know, toxic, you know, type of, you know, personalities on this team. You know, Kevin Durant is known to be, you know, the snake and being somebody that complains a lot. And Kyrie Irving, to some people, believe that he has a lot of issues, particularly mentally. I'm not going to come on here and, you know, bash either one of these guys, particularly because they're on my favorite team, but also just that's what we've been seeing. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing is this, where, you know, who's going to have the basketball? You know, Kyrie Irving needs the ball a lot in order to do what he needs to do. Kevin Durant, same thing. James Harden's averaging 30 plus a year because he has the basketball all the time. So obviously, this is a question of what is going to be, you know, who's going to get the ball most? How is the offense going to roll? Are they going to build some chemistry? But let's also look at this. Let's look at another thing. James Harden has 2 years left on the deal that he's on right now. He's 31 years of age. Kevin Durant is 30 and Kyrie Irving is 28. These guys are without a doubt in the prime of their career, and the chances of them wanting to stay with the Nets long term, maybe even for the rest of their career, is very, very unlikely. I think that most likely all three of these guys will be in different uniforms in the next couple of years. But they're here with the Nets right now, just talking about Kyrie and KD, because they want to win a championship together. They want to do this. So obviously they're looking at someone like James Harden and trying to give him an opportunity to come to a super team and try to win a championship. And I think the way that James Harden, has pretty much said, and pretty much given out the impression that most likely it's not like he's going to come to the Nets, sign a long-term extension, and we're all good. He's probably going to play out those 2 years, see where everything goes, and if it doesn't work out there, or even if it does, he might move on to some other team. So that's something to think about as well. Here's another thing. What the Nets would have to give up for James Harden is exactly the same thing as what we saw when the Nets gave up a boatload of picks to acquire Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Jason Terry. But this actually might be worse because Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry were still, relatively decent players, but they weren't in the prime of their career and they weren't superstars. This time around, you have a James Harden who's still one of the top 5 players in the National Basketball Association, and you're already paying a crap load of money to 2 superstars you already have on the team. And also the fact that the Rockets will have to accept that their championship window is closed and that they want to start to rebuild. So they're looking for, from what we're hearing from a lot of people, they're looking for a almost bona fide up-and-coming superstar, another young talented player, and a boatload of picks. And I've already heard several mock, trades. One of them was Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, and 3 first-round picks. That is insane. If you're a Nets fan, especially during that time when Sean Marks first came here and he had nothing, do we really want to go down that road with the possibility of obviously being arguably one of the best teams in the NBA? But if you get rid of those guys, what type of bench do you have? You're going to have to end up getting a bunch of veteran players to take the veteran minimum, and they're not going to have a lot of depth on the bench. So they're going to have to ask these 3 guys to play 35 to 40 minutes a night just to be as successful as they can possibly be. And I understand the NBA is a players-driven league, and that's what we're seeing with this. And so if the Nets were to do this, I'm not going to blame Sean Marks because it's out of his control. He doesn't really have much say in this. He's being forced by his 2 superstars to say, get James Harden to Brooklyn by any means necessary. And we have to remember, Spencer Dinwiddie was a big reason that, Kyrie Irving wanted to come to Brooklyn other than playing with Kevin Durant. He kept recruiting him and saying, come to Brooklyn. And another thing to remember is also this. The Nets only wanted Kevin Durant. They were not wild about Kyrie Irving, considering all the things that had been said and all the things that had happened the couple of years he was with the Boston Celtics. But they knew that in order to get Kevin Durant, they had to get Kyrie Irving. So that's why Kyrie Irving is here. Now, Kyrie Irving is an incredibly talented player and one of the best free throw shooters in arguably NBA history with well over a 90% free throw shooting rating. But at the same time, he can be somewhat of a ball hog in some cases, especially when he's trying to make a lot of really, crazy moves. And is he considered a leader? Well, if you ask Boston players, not really. And considering the fact that the Celtics have had a ton more success since Kyrie Irving was not on the team, that should tell you a lot as well. And the Nets were doing that well when Kyrie Irving was playing. And he even called out his own team and said, we need to get more talent here. So basically, Kyrie Irving doesn't really care that much about the players that are on this team. It doesn't really care about what the Nets have done to get to this point with the young talent that they've assembled. Sean Marks had to redefine how you build a team because he had no first-round picks. He had to get second-round picks, take on bad contracts in order to get good players, like when he was able to acquire D'Angelo Russell, and he had to also acquire Timofey Mozgov in that same deal because of his bad contract. It's things like that. So Sean Marks deserves all the credit for building the team to this point. But unfortunately, there's a possibility that it could be taken down because it's out of his control because of the fact that the players are in charge of everything. Now, the borough of Brooklyn hasn't won a championship in 65 years since the Dodgers beat the New York Yankees in 7 games in the 1955 World Series. The Dodgers ended up leaving 2 years later, and we waited a long time before Brooklyn got a professional sports team again. And obviously, it has been a long time, 1973, since a basketball team in New York City won an NBA championship. Right now, the Brooklyn Nets are New York City's best hope to win not only an NBA championship, but to win a championship in that city. Because a lot of the other teams right now are not there. They're not ready to do it. They're not ready. So the Nets are that city's biggest hope at this moment. But if you were to tell me that the Nets could get James Harden for all those young talented players and 3 or 4 future first-round picks, unless the Nets can guarantee, almost guarantee basically, that they can win 2 or 3 championships, to me it's just not worth it. And I'm worried as hell because I think that this move is going to end up backfiring, because if these guys are not, willing to play with each other and play off of each other and have good chemistry, it's going to fail halfway through this upcoming season. So the bottom line for me, to kind of wrap this up, I don't personally think this is a good idea. And I'm speaking not only as a Nets fan, but as an analyst myself. I think this is a very bad idea. I think this is a disaster waiting to happen. And I think the Nets need to understand, and particularly Kyrie and KD, that you already have a third star in Karis LeVert, who balled out during the bubble. And you have a first-round pick this year that you can get someone like RJ Hampton that could be a complimentary piece. You're also trying to re-sign Joe Harris. You have a lot of talent that can win you a championship, okay? You just have to go out there and continue to play the way that you're capable of playing. And we already know the Nets are, without a doubt, one of the top teams going into next season in the Eastern Conference. If they do get James Harden, then obviously the Nets would probably be favorites to get out of the Eastern Conference and play in the NBA Finals. Are they a guaranteed NBA champion? No, because you still have LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and those guys in LA. You also still have the Clippers too, if they get things rolling as well. But to me, getting James Harden would be a very, very bad idea. I wouldn't really put much blame on management or ownership. Obviously this is a players-driven league, and if the players want something done, 9 times out of 10, it's going to get done. So I know that we're hearing that the Rockets are saying they're willing to play the waiting game with both Westbrook and Harden, but I think considering all the rumors that we're hearing and all the information that we're getting, I think it's no longer about if this is going to happen. It's more of a matter of when is it going to happen. It could very well happen, during, when you guys see this video. It might have already happened. So this video, is nothing, but I just want to share my opinion on that. I don't think this is a good idea. I hope the Nets don't do that, but if they do, then obviously I'm like, okay, you got to win, you have to win a championship and probably have to win multiple to justify making that move, because otherwise I think this is a disaster waiting to happen. So the other topic that we're going to discuss here on this edition of Mofobo Network Presents is we're going to be talking about a major historical event happened this past week, and it was kind of introduced earlier this week, and that was the Miami Marlins have hired Kim Ng, the first female general manager in a North American men's pro sports league. She's also the first Asian American general manager in baseball history. So this was a massive, massive hiring, not just from a professional standpoint, but also from a human standpoint, and looking, for young girls who are very big into sports and to say, or even just, girls in general looking at women in power like Kim Ng and saying, wow, she was able to become the general manager of a professional baseball team. Well, that means I could do anything. And that's what I'm looking at, here with this hire. And I will say this right off the bat, that this is not a publicity hire. This is nothing like that. Kim Ng is more than qualified to be a general manager. Let's go, through her history being involved in Major League Baseball, which has been, nearly 30 plus years. She started as an intern with the Chicago White Sox in 1990, and then she was hired as a full-time person on the team next year in 1991. She was named Assistant Director of Baseball Operations in 1995, and then she left the White Sox in 1996, and then in 1997 oversaw transactions as the American League's Director of Waivers and Records. Then she was hired by Brian Cashman and the New York Yankees as an assistant general manager in 1998. At the time, she was the youngest person to hold the position at the time. While she was in New York, she ended up winning 3 World Series rings, 1998, 1999, and 2000 during that Yankees dynasty run. And then she left the Yankees in 2001 to join the Dodgers as an assistant general manager, where she remained until 2011, where she became Major League Baseball's senior vice president of baseball operations in the commissioner's office. And so that was pretty much where she was until this point. Another thing to mention also that is interesting is that she has been interviewed several times before to be a general manager. She's previously been interviewed for the GM jobs with the Los Angeles Angels, the San Francisco Giants, the Seattle Mariners, and the San Diego Padres. Now, another thing to keep in mind is this. Derek Jeter is part owner of the Miami Marlins. And because of the fact that she knows Kim Ng and has a relationship with her dating back to when Jeter was still playing with the Yankees, or when he was basically in the prime of his career, he knew that Kim Ng was a star in the making, that this woman had the opportunity and had the smarts to know that she was ready to go to be a general manager. And some of the quotes that I read from her after she got hired, she's saying she's a go-getter. She's not going to give up very easily. She's going to do everything she possibly can to make sure that whoever she's working for gets the best results possible, especially now being the general manager of the Miami Marlins. Now, this is just a huge hire. So again, like I mentioned, Ng and Jeter go way back. And also, Ng worked with Gary Denbo with the Yankees, who is Derek Jeter's right-hand man as well. So Kim Ng, like I mentioned and like I read to you guys, is more than capable of being a general manager in Major League Baseball. She's been in the game for a long time. She's been around some of the best minds of baseball. She's been around some of the best organizations. You're talking about the two most well-known organizations in not just baseball, but in all of sports, with the Yankees and the Dodgers. She's won championships. She knows how to build a team. The Yankees, particularly Brian Cashman, said that she was, she rightfully deserves this, and that it's great that she's finally getting the opportunity. And she's making a lot of history. And the thing that is the most important that I mentioned just a few minutes ago is simply the fact that there are young girls and young women out there that are going to look at this and say, oh my goodness, this is incredible. This clearly proves that women can do anything they put their mind to, and that if they're just given the opportunity, they can show that they're more than qualified to do the job. And I've spoken to several women and just several people in general who said that this is tremendous, and they love that this isn't just some sort of publicity stunt, that this is an actual hire, that she definitely qualifies for it, and that she's ready to go. And because the Marlins are a team on the rise, they just made the playoffs this past year for the first time since they won the World Series in 2003. It's just their third playoff appearance in their history. The Marlins clearly show that they're a team that is willing to do things that are not what you would consider to be something that a lot of fans would be used to, and that they're constantly thinking outside the box. And they're also willing to do things that, could it be criticized for? Possibly. But they don't care about that. Derek Jeter's main focus is he wants to build a championship team, and he wants to have the smartest, most qualified people working with him. And Kim Ng fits that mold. And this is not just because they have a relationship, but also, again, like I mentioned, because Ng has the ability to do this. So I'm very excited for her. This is a Miami Marlins team that has a kid like Sixto Sanchez who's going to be a tremendous pitcher. And honestly, the future is very bright with the Miami Marlins. This is a team that in another 2, maybe 3 years could very well compete for a World Series championship. So this is a very, very big hire, and I'm very interested to see what happens down the road. But congratulations to Kim Ng on not only being the first woman to be hired as a general manager for a pro sports team in North America, but also making history as the first Asian American general manager in baseball history. Hey guys, it's your host, Neil Villapiano. Thank you guys so much for checking out this week's video here on Mofobo Network Presents. I greatly, greatly appreciate that you guys took some time to check this out. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure to leave a like, also subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos that we post every single Wednesday, and also just leave a comment and let me know what you guys think of the video and everything else like that. So please do that. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. If you want to check out more of this YouTube channel, like I said, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Also, make sure to subscribe to the Mofobo Network Facebook page, where there you can stay up to date with the new videos that we post. We also have a podcast for Mofobo Network. It's called Mofobo Network Podcast, where it's available on Anchor and Spotify. Just like here on Mofobo Network Presents, we post new episodes of the podcast every Tuesday and Thursday talking about the most up-to-date topics and content in the wide world of sports. So please go like and subscribe to that as well. You can stay up to date with the podcast just like Mofobo Network Presents as well on the Mofobo Network Facebook page. You can follow me on my personal Twitter at THENVPSHOW and also on my personal Instagram at NVPQB11. If you want to continue to check out great content that I put out, you can check me out as the host of the Devils State of Mind podcast, which is the New Jersey Devils hockey team-based podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network. On this podcast, in which we post new episodes every single Monday, I talk about all the news and notes and all exciting things happening with the New Jersey Devils, as well as hockey news in general. We have great guests that come on with some just great stories and so much fun. So please go check that out as well. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts. So SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, wherever. Just search Hockey Podcast Network or Devil's State of Mind and you'll find it. Please also go check out hockeypodcastnetwork.org, where there you can see all the team-based podcasts and just other great hockey podcasts that we have on this network. So if you're a hockey fan or if you're not, or if you just want to learn more about the sport, please go check it out, hockeypodcastnetwork.org. We have a Twitter for the Devil's State of Mind podcast at Devil's State. We have an Instagram at Devil's State of Mind. And just like Mofobo, we have a Facebook page where there you can stay up to date with the new episodes of the podcast posted every single Monday. And also on all of those, there is a link to the Devil's State of Mind website, where also if you just bookmark it, you can see all the new episodes that we post. So please go check that out as well and support me on there. And last but certainly not least, go check out my book right now on Amazon.com as well as Barnes & Noble. It's titled JETS Pain, Pain, Pain. It's about the pain and suffering of being a Jets fan for the Jets fan. And so, I mean, obviously you look at the fact that the Jets off to an 0-3 start, not really that great. But this book will certainly help you understand more about, why the team is the way that they are, why they've been this way for so long. We go through a lot of great painful stories, painful moments, painful player decisions, and everything else. So please go check that book out. If you're a Jets fan or a football fan, if you know someone who's one of those, or if you just want to support me, go check it out. It's available for hardcover and ebook for the price of $19.69. And if you're a Jets fan or a football fan, you probably guessed why I chose that price. So please go check it out on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Again, JETS Pain, Pain, Pain. So thank you guys very much once again for checking out this edition of Mofobo Network Presents, and we will see you in the next video. And as I always say at the end of every single video, no matter what's going on in the world, no matter what hardships you might be dealing with, just remember when you wake up in the morning to think positively, have a smile on your face, and kick some Mofobo. So thank you guys very much, and God bless.